You stand at the edge of Anatomy Park, where the gates rise higher than before, glowing with a pulsing red light that seems to thrum in time with your own chest. The sign above doesn't simply say, Heart Pavilion. It beats. The letters expand and contract rhythmically, as if the very name of the attraction has a pulse of its own. You step closer, and already you feel it, the deep, steady bass of life itself, a drumbeat older than memory, constant, relentless, impossible to ignore. With every thud, the gate seems to push air outward, as if it breathes. The doors swing wide, and you are ushered inside. It feels at once like a carnival and a cathedral. The air is warm, tinged with the faint scent of iron, and the floor beneath your feet vibrates with each beat, steady as a metronome. Above you, 4 colossal chambers loom like grand halls, their walls glistening, their surfaces rippling as if alive. Red and blue banners stream between them, marking 2 great rivers of traffic, one glowing crimson, rich with oxygen, the other darker, blue-tinged, waiting to be filled with life again. The ceiling arches into pipes and passageways that twist like roller coaster tracks, carrying streams of glowing visitors, blood cells, who cheer as they rush along their endless circuit. You step onto a moving platform that carries you toward the first grand chamber. A booming voice echoes overhead, playful yet commanding, like a carnival announcer who also happens to be your biology professor. Welcome to the beating heart of Anatomy Park. Quite literally, you are about to enter the most tireless ride in existence. This engine has been pumping since before you were born, and if you're lucky, it won't take a break until long after you've left the park. Strap in. The Heart Pavilion never closes. You glide into the first atrium, a cavernous entry hall, where blue-lit streams of visitors pour in from the great veine cave, the superior and inferior, towering water slides that empty into the right atrium. It feels like standing at the arrivals terminal of a massive train station. Passengers shuffle in, deoxygenated blood cells, returning from their long journey through the body. Weary travelers who have given up their oxygen and picked up waste. Their chatter fills the chamber. We need a refill, one of them says with a sigh. Hope the lungs have fresh stock. The walls shimmer as the sinoatrial node, the park's conductor, flickers with light, sending out rhythmic sparks that ripple through the atrium, guiding every movement. This is the pacemaker, the tiny patch of specialized cells that sets the rhythm of the entire organ. You can feel it tugging at you, as if inviting your own body into sync. But the atrium is only the waiting room. Ahead, a great gate rises and falls, the tricuspid valve. 3 massive flaps of tissue swing open like the turnstiles of a ride, letting the weary travelers flood through. You notice how precise it is. The valve opens only when the time is right, closes the instant the chamber below begins to squeeze. One way only, no backtracking allowed. The voice above chuckles. No refunds, no returns. The ride only moves forward. You descend with the flood into the right ventricle, and suddenly the atmosphere changes. Here, the walls are thicker, sturdier, a chamber designed not for gathering, but for launching. This is the loading dock of a great roller coaster. The floor rumbles beneath your feet as papillary muscles pull on taut cords, the cordae tendineae, or heartstrings, ensuring the tricuspid valve above doesn't dirty blow backward when the ventricle contracts. The blood cells chatter nervously, crowding together, waiting for the push. Then it comes. The chamber squeezes, walls contracting with astonishing force, and the pulmonary valve bursts open like the gates of a thrill ride. You are hurled upward, rushing through the pulmonary artery, a dark tunnel that forks into two twisting tracks, leading straight to the lungs. The cells scream with glee as they rocket upward, and you can't help but laugh with them. Ahead, the tunnel glows brighter and brighter until you burst into the lung pavilion. But that's another ride altogether. For now, you hover at the edge, watching as the cells leap off to collect oxygen, like tourists grabbing souvenirs. The platform beneath your feet shifts, drawing you back into the heart pavilion. Don't get lost, the announcer warns. The heart may send blood to the lungs, but the real show is when it welcomes them back, renewed and recharged. And just like that, you are swept into the left atrium. This chamber feels different, brighter, more triumphant. Streams of glowing red cells pour in through the pulmonary veins, freshly oxygenated, buzzing with energy like partygoers returning from a fireworks show. The atrium hums with anticipation. You notice how smooth the flow is, how seamlessly the chambers coordinate. Atria filling just as ventricles empty, ventricles pumping just as atria relax. This is choreography, perfected over millions of years of evolution, a ballet so precise that it happens 60 to 100 times every minute without faltering. Ahead looms another gate, the mitral valve, elegant and strong, with its two flaps swinging open like double doors. You step through, and suddenly you are in the grandest chamber of all, the left ventricle. The walls here are massive, thick as fortress battlements, layered with spiraling muscle fibers that wrap around you like coiled ropes. This chamber is the park's main launch pad, the most powerful engine in the body. The cells gather, jittery with excitement, because they know this is the big one. The contraction begins, and you feel the pressure rise around you, immense and unstoppable. The papillary muscles tense, pulling the heartstrings tight. The aortic valve ahead shudders, then bursts open, and with a thunderous whoosh, the cells are catapulted into the aorta. The grand highway that arches above like a colossal roller coaster track curving upward before plunging downward into countless branching tunnels. Some cells rush toward the brain, others toward the arms, still others dive deep toward the legs and toes. Every path lit like neon tubing, every branch vital. You grip the railing as the voice overhead booms again. Congratulations, traveler! You've just witnessed the greatest show in Anatomy Park. This four-chambered marvel has run non-stop since before your first breath. It pumps nearly 100,000 times a day, moving about 7,500 liters of blood through 60,000 miles of vessels. And it never complains, never rests, never stops, unless of course it does. And when it does, the park closes forever. The lights dim for a moment, the beat stutters, and for a fraction of a second, you feel the weight of silence. Then the chambers thud again, strong and steady, and the ride continues. The crowd of blood cells cheers. The announcer laughs, a little darkly. Scared you, didn't I? That's the thing about the heart. It doesn't forgive interruptions. As you walk deeper into the pavilion, you begin to notice details you missed before. The shimmering endocardium lining the walls, smooth as glass, preventing clots from forming. The thick myocardium beneath, muscle fibers spiraling in complex patterns that let the heart twist as it contracts, wringing itself like a wet towel for maximum efficiency, and the epicardium wrapping it all. The outer shell that gleams like lacquer under the lights, layer upon layer, each essential, each perfectly tuned. You're guided into a smaller chamber off to the side, dimly lit, where glowing pathways spread across the walls, like fiber optic cables. This is the conduction system, the secret wiring of the heart. The sinoatrial node flashes in the right atrium. The spark travels to the atrioventricular node, pauses just long enough to let the ventricles fill, then races down the bundle of his and through the Purkinje fibers. The walls light up in sequence, and you realize this entire organ is both engine and orchestra. Muscle and electricity fused into one seamless machine. The announcer whispers now, drawing you closer. What if I told you that this heartbeat you feel, this rhythm guiding your every moment, began long before you were even born? The embryonic heart starts beating at about 22 days of development. No brain, no consciousness, just a flicker of muscle cells sparking in unison. The first drumbeat of your life, and it hasn't stopped since. You pause. The scale of it sinks in. This tiny organ, no larger than your fist, has carried you from embryo to now, and it will likely carry you for decades more. And yet, it is fragile. A blockage here, a rupture there, a misfire in its electrical wiring, and the entire system falters. The announcer leans in again. It is both the strongest and the most vulnerable ride in the park. Suddenly, the lights around you flare red, sirens wail. A valve slams shut somewhere nearby. The voice booms, urgent now. Attention riders! We have a clinical curiosity on display. The floor beneath you tilts, and you slide into a side corridor where holograms flash across the walls. A valve that doesn't close properly. Regurgitation. And blood surges backward, flooding chambers where it doesn't belong. Another hologram. A narrowed valve. Stenosis. The crowd of blood cells pressing, straining, unable to pass. The images twist into plaques, clogging arteries. Electrical storms flickering across chambers. The announcer speaks quickly, almost theatrically. These are the villains of the Heart Pavilion. They sneak in, they sabotage the ride. They cause chaos in the system. And yet, with modern medicine, with interventions and technology, we fight them back. The sirens fade, the lights soften, and you return gently to the main path. You take a breath. The crowd of blood cells continues their journey, unaffected, loyal to the rhythm. The heart beats on, unfazed by the detour. But there's something else now. A rising anticipation, as if the pavilion has only revealed its first act. Deeper tunnels call to you, promising microscopic wonders. Hidden stories written not in chambers and valves, but in cells and molecules. The announcer's voice drops once more, steady and inviting. You've seen the grand halls and the mighty pumps, but you haven't yet seen the real engines. The ones that work unseen, at the tiniest scale. Would you dare go deeper, traveler? Would you follow the blood into the very fibers that make this miracle beat? The floor trembles beneath you. The walls pulse with brighter light. Something vast is waiting beyond. You feel the floor shift beneath your feet, a slow descent, as though the entire chamber is an elevator, lowering you deeper into the Heart Pavilion. The massive halls and booming voices of the ventricles fade into a quieter hum, replaced by the whispering pulse of something more intimate. The walls ripple and dissolve, revealing layers beneath, like peeling back the shell of a ride to see the hidden machinery that makes it run. The announcer's voice returns, softer now, conspiratorial, as though letting you in on a secret. You've seen the heart as a whole, the grand halls, the mighty pumps, the show-stopping valves. But what keeps this ride running isn't just strength. It's the tiny workers, the smallest gears turning inside the machine. Welcome to the microzone, traveler. You are about to walk through the very fibers that make the heart beat. The floor solidifies into a glowing bridge, suspended in the air, and below it stretches a shimmering landscape. Spirals of muscle fibers, twisting and coiling like ropes wound around a drum. These are the cardiomyocytes, the cardiac muscle cells. At first they look like towering pillars, quivering in rhythm, but as you descend, they reveal themselves as living units. aligned hand in hand by glowing junctions. These cells are unlike any other muscle cells, the voice explains. Skeletal muscle obeys your will. Smooth muscle works quietly in your organs. But cardiac muscle? It contracts endlessly, never tiring, never asking permission. It does so because of these special junctions. Look closely. Ahead, a massive wall shimmers with intercalated discs, vast glowing seams stitching cell to cell. They flash like fiber optic cables, waves of energy racing across the surface. These discs hold the cells together under immense pressure. But more importantly, they carry the spark, ions leaping from one cell to the next. This is how the heart contracts as one, not a million random twitches, but a symphony, every note struck at the same time. The wave passes through you, and for a moment you feel it in your own chest, as if your heartbeat has synced with the ride itself. You move onward, the fibers spiral upward, into immense columns, twisting like roller coaster supports. Notice the pattern. The guide says, the fibers don't run straight, they spiral. This lets the ventricles twist when they contract, wringing themselves like a towel. It forces out every last drop of blood with a design no engineer can match. The bridge curves into a forest of branching vessels, glowing faintly red. Even a heart needs its own blood supply. The chambers are too thick to feed themselves. That's why we have the coronary arteries. You enter a glittering tunnel, where streams of blood rush past. Two main passages split ahead. On your left, the left coronary artery, dividing into the circumflex, and the left anterior descending, the LAD, the so-called widowmaker, feeding the powerful left ventricle. On your right, the right coronary artery, wrapping around to supply the right chambers, and the conduction system. Block one of these, and the ride fails. That's myocardial infarction, a heart attack. Here, the villains aren't monsters. They're clogs, silent and sudden. The tunnel narrows into delicate webs of capillaries, spun glass threads, hugging each muscle fiber. Red cells squeeze through, one by one, like children filing into a ride. Here's the deal, the announcer says. Every beat demands energy, huge amounts of it. That's why cardiac muscle is packed with mitochondria, tiny furnaces burning oxygen and glucose. Unlike skeletal muscle, the heart cannot rest. These furnaces burn day and night, for life. The furnaces flare around you, filling the chamber with orange light, but suddenly the glow flickers. What happens when these vessels narrow? The voice sharpens. Plaque builds, starving muscle of oxygen. Pain radiates across the chest. Angina. If a clot lodges here, muscle dies, scar tissue replacing what once beat. And scar tissue cannot contract. The part can patch, but it cannot rebuild the engines. The capillaries dim, the furnaces wink out, then surge back as blood floods in again. Not this time, the announcer says. Medicine, surgery, stents. We fight back. But the villains always linger. You exhale, following the ride upward into a lattice of shimmering nerves draped across the heart like strands of light. Now the wiring. The heart sparks on its own, but it listens to the body's commands. Sympathetic nerves race like lightning, speeding the beat in fight or flight. Parasympathetic fibers whisper calm, slowing it down. Think of them as the park's managers, guiding but never replacing the conductor. You watch as the nodes light up in order. The sinoatrial node, atrioventricular node, bundle of his, Purkinje fibers. But if the rhythm falters, the announcer warns. Arrhythmia. Some are harmless quirks. Others can kill in seconds. When the spark fails entirely, we bring in new rides. Pacemakers. Tiny machines that keep time when the original conductor falters. The nerves pulse steadily, the rhythm restored. The ride carries you into a vast hall, lined with murals of ancient creatures. Not all hearts look like this. The voice reflects. Fish have 2 chambers, enough for gills and body in a single loop. Amphibians and reptiles evolved 3, but mammals and birds reached the 4-chambered design. Complete separation of oxygen-rich and oxygen-poor blood. Efficient, powerful, able to fuel flight, endurance, intelligence. Without it, our lineage wouldn't exist. The murals shimmer with scenes of creatures swimming, crawling, flying, a reminder of deep time. The announcer lowers their voice. And yet, even this masterpiece has limits. The heart cannot regenerate well. Damage lingers, scars remain. Fragile yet enduring, it beats decade after decade, through strain and sorrow, through joy and love. The murals fade, only the rhythm remains, soft, steady, unrelenting. You've walked through the fibers, the vessels, the sparks, the history. But one mystery still waits. One final layer, the essence of why this organ never rests. Are you ready, traveler, to step even deeper, to see the truth that makes the heart more than pump, more than engine, more than muscle? The floor trembles, the walls shudder, and you feel yourself pulled forward into the unknown. You feel yourself pulled forward, deeper still, as though the very rhythm of the heart has wrapped itself around you and is tugging you into its core. The walls of the chamber twist and fold, narrowing until you are sliding down a tunnel of pulsing light. The sound of the heartbeat is louder now, not the booming bass of ventricles, but the intimate whisper of something closer, more primal, as though you are entering the very spark that drives it all. The tunnel opens, and suddenly you stand suspended in a vast twilight plain, stretching farther than the eye can see. The ground beneath your feet glimmers with shifting molecules, rivers of ions flowing in shimmering streams, sodium and calcium and potassium surging in coordinated tides. They flash and disappear, then reappear again, each movement a beat, each tide a rhythm. The announcer's voice is hushed, reverent. You've seen the holes, the vessels, the sparks, but here is where it all begins. Not in the chambers, not in the valves, not in the arteries. It begins here, at the microscopic dance of ions. Every beat of your heart is born from the passage of charged particles across the membranes of cells. This is the electricity of life itself. A gust of light sweeps across the plane, and you see it unfold. Sodium rushing inward, a wave of depolarization sweeping through a line of cells. Calcium follows, bursting forth to trigger the contraction of fibers. Potassium surges outward, resetting the stage. A cycle, endless and precise. The announcer leans closer, as though whispering into your ear. Each cardiomyocyte is an instrument in the orchestra. It plays its note through this ionic ballet, contracting as calcium floods in, relaxing as potassium flows out. But the miracle is that they are all connected. One cell's spark ignites the next, and the next, until an entire chamber contracts in harmony. This is the action potential. This is why the heart beats as one. The plane ripples beneath you, waves of light surging in perfect rhythm, and you feel your chest tighten with the echo. The ride carries you higher, lifting you above the waves, and you see the plane transform into a glowing map of the heart itself, every spark lighting up in sequence. Atria, flashing first ventricles, following the rhythm, never faltering. But then the map trembles. A flicker, an irregularity. Sparks fire chaotically, racing in circles, clashing against one another. The announcer's voice turns grave. And here lies the danger. When the ionic dance is disturbed, when sparks spiral endlessly instead of passing cleanly through. The rhythm breaks. Atrial fibrillation, flutter. Ventricular tachycardia, fibrillation. In these storms, the heart does not pump, it quivers. And in quivering, it fails. The map around you becomes a storm of lightning, chambers flickering in chaos, the beat lost. The silence presses heavy, but then, a flash. A single focused jolt cuts through the storm. The sparks realign, the rhythm steadies. The announcer chuckles, almost triumphantly. Defibrillation, a shock to reset the dance. A reminder that sometimes the only way to restore rhythm is to start again. The storm clears, the plane steadies, and you are carried onward into a chamber, unlike any before. This one glows golden, warm, almost comforting. The walls are not muscle or vessels, but soft fibrous tissue, cradling the heart in a sack. The pericardium, you feel a faint fluid brushing against you, cushioning every beat, reducing friction, ensuring the ride runs smooth. The announcer softens. The heart beats tirelessly, but it does not beat naked. It is wrapped in its own protective park walls. The pericardium. Too much fluid here though, and the ride is suffocated. Cardiac tamponade. When pressure builds, chambers cannot fill, and the beat falters. The heart is mighty, but it is hemmed in by fragility. The golden chamber fades, and suddenly you are back inside the pumping halls. Only now you see them differently. You see not just chambers and valves, but every layer, every microscopic detail. Endocardium slick and smooth. Myocardium thick and coiled. Epicardium shining. You see the valve's leaflets ripple like sails. The tendinous cords taut as ropes. The papillary muscles pulling with every squeeze. And you understand now how every layer, every structure, every cell is not an accessory but essential. The announcer laughs, booming again. This is no simple pump. It is a cathedral of engineering, a fortress of fibers, a spark of electricity, a legacy of evolution. And yet it fits in the palm of your hand. The floor beneath you shakes, and suddenly the walls peel back. The chambers stretch outward, transforming into a colossal stage. Blood cells rush across like performers. Valves swing like grand doors. Sparks ripple across the walls like fireworks. You are watching a show now, the heart performing its endless cycle, over and over, unstoppable. The crowd of blood cells cheers. The valves thunder open and slam shut like percussion. The ventricles twist and launch like dancers spinning across the stage. It is a spectacle, a festival, a miracle in motion. The announcer's voice swells. 100,000 beats a day. 3 billion beats in a lifetime, without rest, without pause. It is both carnival and covenant, machine and miracle. It does not ask for gratitude, yet without it, there is nothing. The stage darkens, the beat slows, the cells fall silent. For a moment, there is stillness. The announcer whispers, and yet, someday it will stop. The ride will end. The park will close. That is the irony of the heart. It carries you through every moment of your life, yet it cannot carry itself beyond the end. But until that day, it beats. It beats in joy and in sorrow, in rest and in terror. It beats now, in you, as we speak. The silence deepens. You feel your own chest. You feel the thud, steady and strong. And then the announcer's voice rises one last time, fierce and triumphant. So when you hear that rhythm in your chest, that drum, that dance, that relentless beat, remember what you have walked through today. Remember the chambers, the sparks, the vessels, the history, the fragility, the miracle. For you are living inside the greatest ride of all, the only one you cannot leave, the one that began before you were born, and will play until your final moment, the heart, the eternal engine of Anatomy Park. The stage explodes in light. Fireworks of sparks burst across the chambers. The valves clap like thunder. The ventricles roar like cannons. The blood cells leap and cheer as they rush along their endless tracks, and the beat, steady and triumphant, carries it all forward. Thud, thud, thud. The ride goes on,